The information provided on this show does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice. Instead, all information on this show is for general informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for legal advice, and we recommend viewers consult an attorney for specific legal matters.
To Condo Craze and HOAs on this Sunday. We're here every Sunday at 11 a.m. Karen Curtis, attorney Eric Glazer. And today we are taking your calls and comments about, we talked about it last week, HB 657, but the portion of the bill that talks about being able to terminate your HOA. Yeah. So tell us about this one.
All right. Yeah, great show last week, by the way. A lot of views. Really appreciate it. But let me ask you guys a question here. Have you ever dreamed about getting rid of your HOA? Some of you might have. You know, no more board meetings, no more violation letters, no more fines over garbage or parking or landscaping, right? Just freedom, you would think. But for a lot of homeowners, that sounds pretty good. And right now there's a bill, like Karen said, HB 657, moving through the Florida legislature that would actually allow that to happen. For the first time ever, homeowners in an HOA could vote to terminate the association entirely. Sounds simple, it sounds empowering for a lot of people, but the real question is this: are we solving a problem, or are we creating, I should say, a much larger one, like we will argue here? Because eliminating an HOA doesn't just eliminate a board. This bill tries to eliminate the entire system that governs their community. Now, let's talk about what the bill actually does. Florida condos have always had a way to terminate the condominium form of ownership. It's in the statute, it's typically in their governing documents, but homeowner associations never had a clear statutory process to dissolve the HOA, and this bill creates one. So under House Bill 657, an HOA could now be terminated through what's called a plan of termination. If 2/3 of the voting interests approve it, the process moves forward. Then the plan goes to court for review. The court has 45 days to respond, and if the court doesn't respond within those 45 days, the plan is automatically approved.
So that's 2/3 of the residents.
Correct.
And then it goes to a judge.
To a judge, correct. That's exactly right. Okay, that's the process. Now, after that, the HOA has to start winding down its affairs, meaning the assets are sold, the debts are paid, and whatever money remains is distributed to owners.
Can you paint your door purple at that time?
If the docs go out the window, yes, you can. You probably can. And again, the bill also allows the homeowners to force the issue, meaning that if 50% of the owners sign a petition, the owners must consider the termination. The association has to consider it, right? If the board refuses to call a meeting, the owners can go to court and force it.
So the board has no say in this.
Right, no, the board doesn't start with the board. It starts with the owners. Correct, you need a petition. And there are safeguards here. Boards cannot use association funds to campaign for or against the termination. Yeah, they can't refuse to have meetings on it, and they certainly can't hide the records that are relative to it, but which, you know, that sometimes happens in an HOA, right? But the bigger question is this: are homeowners actually asking for their HOA to disappear? Now, in decades practicing community association law, I can tell you that's not really what I hear. I really never hear that. What homeowner associations usually say, homeowners usually say, is my board won't answer questions. My board isn't transparent. My board isn't doing their job.
Or they get a lot of fines, or they feel like they're being targeted for having
that's fine.
Their garbage cans.
Those are the complaints, but you don't hear them say, I want to completely throw out the process, right? You're hearing accountability problems, not existence problems, right?
So you're feeling that people aren't really asking to eliminate the HOA, they just want the board fixed.
Exactly, that's exactly right. I don't hear things that we want to throw out the HOA completely, and that's what this bill does. Most homeowners want a better HOA. They want transparency. They want accountability. They want responsible governance. But when people hear terminate the HOA, they imagine one thing, and that's the board disappearing. But they're leaving out a lot. What they don't picture is everything else that disappears with it. Think about your community that you live in right now, right? Who maintains the roads? Who maintains the stormwater systems? Who insures the clubhouse? Who keeps the pool open? Right now, it's the board that's doing all those things for you, right?
With your dime.
With your dime, but the board is doing it. They're
Right.
the ones in control, right? But when the HOA disappears like this bill does, those responsibilities don't vanish. And now we have to talk about what happens after this vote passes to dissolve everything.
And the judge says it's okay.
Right. Let's assume the judge says it's okay, right? Now what do we got? We got a community that still has this infrastructure. They still have roads. They still have drainage. They still have lakes. They have lighting. They have landscaping. They have pools, clubhouses, golf courts maybe, and other types of tennis courts or pickleball courts, right?
Golf courses are a very big expense.
Of course.
So would the city or anyone else, the county, take over this?
And that's the question. And they certainly might, even though most HOA communities were built with private infrastructure, right? This is all private.
And
the
the
roads
city
are
doesn't
private.
get any say in that, do they?
No, they don't.
And voters in the city don't, because
No, they
they're
don't.
going to be paying for
That's
it.
exactly, potentially. That's exactly right. So here we have a system where the roads are private, right? The drainage systems are private, the amenities are private, and local governments might have to step in and take those responsibilities over. And again, that would, like you say, that would require people in the municipality who don't even live in the HOA to pay for it. And like what you just said, Karen, those people who don't live in the HOA but live in that municipality that may wind up picking up the bill, they don't get a vote to say no.
But it's cheaper for me in the HOA in the long run
Oh,
if
it
that
might,
happens.
it might, right.
So if the city then votes no, the judge has 45 days to
Going to have to
determine
go
it.
back, and the judge is going to have to figure out who's going to pay for it,
Yeah, and
right?
if the judge sees that the city won't pay for it, then he's not going to
Gotta
approve
go,
it.
It's got to go back to the owners. Somebody has to pay
Somebody's
for it, right?
gotta pay
Exactly.
for it.
And there's another layer that came up here during the debate on this bill, and it came up by Representative Robin Bartleman from District 103 in Weston. And a lot of HOA communities actually have agreements with their local municipality for all these things, and that's what she addresses. Robert, why don't you play that clip, please?
Bartleman, you recognize to explain the amendment.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. This amendment is very simple. What it does, it just says that when a board initiates this process, they have to notify the municipality in writing or via email to let that municipality know, that the municipality in which they live in, what's happening. And the reason for this amendment is because my district, 103, has probably over 10,000 homeowner associations. The city of Weston alone has 3,000, and the cities have agreements and contracts with those associations, so they should be made aware of this process. And that is the amendment.
Alluding to in that clip, sometimes you have agreements between the HOA and the municipality regarding stormwater systems, sometimes traffic access or drainage connections, sometimes maintenance responsibilities or infrastructure coordination. So there can be shared responsibilities, contracts that impose these shared responsibilities between the association and the city. And that's why during the legislative debate, this amendment was requested that would require the association to notify the local municipality if an HOA termination plan is being considered.
Can you imagine if they didn't add that amendment? They
Yes.
could just go ahead and do it,
And
and
all
not
of a sudden the
let them
city
know.
is on the hook. They don't even know what the hell happened. Yeah, it's
Thank
really
God for Bartleman.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, if the HOA disappears, like you were saying, Karen, the city suddenly has to sit down and figure out, what in the world do we do here? They immediately, the city attorney's office certainly has to figure out what agreements existed here, what infrastructure was shared, who's financially responsible now, and guess what? Like we said now for a few times, it might be people now who don't even live in the HOA, but they live in the surrounding community
paying
that
for it.
suddenly have to pick up the bill because the HOA doesn't want to pick up the bill for the infrastructure in their community.
And you'll see them at your pool, and you'll see them on your golf course.
Hey, it's interesting.
then-
Can the city say, hey,
Sure.
look, if we're picking up the
Yeah.
payments for your pool, guess what? It's now a public pool.
And then who's going to be, if you have a gated community, who's protecting the gate? Now, is that going to be local law enforcement or?
Very interesting. Suppose you don't want to pay for the gate anymore. You don't want to pay the security anymore, right? There's so many questions for when an HOA is terminated, and I'll tell you, like we said, those costs are not going to magically disappear. They simply move somewhere else, And in many cases, what does it mean? It means taxpayers pick up the bill. And this is the biggest misunderstanding about terminating an HOA. People think they're removing bureaucracy, but they may be removing the system that actually maintains the community. And again, take something simple like the pool or clubhouse, right? They're typically owned by the association. If the HOA terminates, these assets may need to be sold or liquidated. But who's really going to buy a pool in the middle of another community? Things that are not really thought of. Again, that's why this bill for condos, it was designed so if a developer wants to come in and buy up the whole community, right? So there's a means of selling it to a developer. That statute in an HOA, in a condo setting, it's not there to kill off your condo board. It's there exactly if a developer wants to come by. There's legitimate uses for termination statutes, exactly like we're talking about when a developer wants to come in and buy the development as a whole. Owners vote to terminate, the property gets sold, they walk away with a lot of money, right? And that makes sense, no question, in that type of termination setting. But terminating an HOA simply because you don't like your board? No, that's a very, very different situation than in a condo.
Well, what should homeowners do if they think that their board is doing a bad job?
There's a lot of solutions that already exist. You don't like the way your board is doing things, you have options. Number one, of course, vote them out, right? If you don't like them, vote them out. How about you run for the board yourself?
There you go. Good
There's
one.
an idea, right? Or the statute exists where you can actually recall them. You're saying you want 2/3 to terminate your HOA. Well, how about getting 50% plus 1 to simply remove your board, not terminate your HOA and dump all these problems on the municipality that you live in?
And if you can't find someone that's, very good to be on the board, then what happens? The state appoints a board?
No, you don't necessarily need that. There's always people that are willing to step up. Believe me, much better than terminating your entire HOA. That's going to really throw things into a big, giant mess. It's totally different than terminating the HOA and selling the whole thing as a whole to a developer, like in a condo. Makes sense. A lot of condos are doing it now.
But developers aren't going to buy an HOA. They can't. How could they possibly?
If the whole thing dissolved, maybe they think it's a good idea that they could knock down a whole HOA and put up, big buildings there. Maybe it's possible, especially with what's called Florida Live Local Act going on right now. It's possible. But again, I don't think that's what most homeowners want. I don't think they want to.
With all the trailer park.
Yes, that's big. That's a big one, exactly. As a matter of fact, here in Fort Lauderdale, right?
Yeah.
Now, again, what do I think? I think most homeowners want accountability. They want more transparency. They want more leadership. They want better governments. So the real question is simple. Do we dismantle the entire system, or do we demand from the people that are serving on your board that it operate properly? And if they don't, you vote them out. So here's what I want everything to think about. If your HOA disappeared tomorrow, there's no more boards, who maintains your roads? Who fixes your drainage? Who does the clubhouse? Who keeps the lights on? Who keeps the pool open, the infrastructure running? And if those responsibilities shift to the local government, are you ready, or are the other people in outside of your community ready to pay the taxes that come with it? Or is the real problem not the HOA itself, your board itself, and the people running for it? When we come back, we want to hear from you. Should Florida HOA communities have the right to terminate their HOA with this statute, or is that a very dangerous overreaction to bad leadership? Give us a call in the studio, 717-452-9378, or drop us a question or comment in the chat box.
And we have a poll that's up that you can vote if you think this should go through. Also, if you're in an HOA, it already may be terminated and you don't even know it. And we'll tell you how that would work when we come back.
We'll be back right after this.
Paul thought being on the board meant volunteering.
We demand this pool open now!
Now he's somehow in charge of a construction project larger than anything he's ever owned.
Your top concrete layer of your pool deck all needs to be removed so we can waterproof the structural slab. It's all very simple stuff. You do understand all of this, right?
I understand.
He doesn't, but HCMC does. Save your weekends, sanity, and suntan. Let us manage the mess. Call us to discuss your project at 954-805-5235.
There are very large management companies and there are very small management companies. And I think Affinity sits somewhere in the middle of that, where they are big enough to provide you with all of the back of the house services, the accounting, the infrastructure, the support systems, but small enough to be high touch.
We believe at Affinity that we do the 9 to 5 so that you don't have to do that.
Welcome back to Condo Craze and HOAs. Karen Curtis with attorney Eric Glazer, and we're talking about HB 657, which, if it passes, would allow HOAs to be terminated with 2/3 of the vote, but that would be after you have a petition signed by 50% of them. But,
and the judge has to approve.
And a judge has to
Right.
Other than that.
Right.
So before we went to the break, I posted or posited the idea that you may not be in an HOA.
And you don't know it.
Because unlike condos can terminate.
Condos can terminate if the unit owners vote for it.
Yeah.
But you can have
HOAs
an
can't.
HOA,
Okay.
right? This is
But-
exactly where you were teasing everybody about. You can live in an HOA and your documents can dissolve. And it's important to talk about this every once in a while. Under the Marketable Record Title Act in Florida, if you don't properly preserve your governing documents in your HOA, within 30 years, after that 30-year mark, guess what? They're gone, and suddenly you live in a community with no declaration of condominium, right? And there's
of HOA.
Yeah, no declaration of covenants and restrictions. That's right, and it's gone. Suddenly, you live in a community with no rules, no regulations. You can paint your house any color. You can sell without any restrictions.
And people don't even know this.
And people don't even know, right?
So once you realize that's happened.
Yep. Now, if you blew the 30-year mark, right now, your documents are gone. They're already gone. So there's nothing to preserve within 30 years anymore. If you blew the deadline, now it gets really difficult. Now you got to revitalize those governing documents. You got to bring them back to life. By the way, during the time period that they're gone, you're not allowed to even have the owners pay assessments. There's a case in Broward County.
Holy smokes.
Where a court had a case in front of it where an attorney was trying to collect fees in an HOA where the documents had already expired, and the attorney went after those owners who weren't paying. The owners went after the attorney, and it's the owners that wound up prevailing. The court said, yep, that lawsuit can still keep going because the attorney knew or should have known that those documents were expired, and once they're expired, there's no right to collect assessments.
So it's the same ending. If with both these cases.
Yeah, one is involuntary, one is voluntary. Right, exactly. Be careful. Don't blow the 30-year deadline.
Whoa.
Okay? Good point. All right, how about we go back to the phones, Robert?
All right, let's go to our first caller is Sean from St. Pete.
How are you, Sean? Love St. Pete.
I'm doing great, Eric and Karen. Appreciate the show, and thanks, Robert, for all your help.
Sure thing.
A couple of questions that you highlighted on. Is there going to be an exemption for House Bill 657 for units smaller than 100 units or 50 units, kind of like the website thing?
No, there is absolutely no exemption of which I am aware in the bill. It's going to apply to homeowner associations everywhere, from my understanding.
And then the second part you just highlighted on the revitalization of our documents. We are actually in the process of that.
Okay.
But when does the date start? Is it from when the last property is sold, or from when the developer incorporated?
No, it's a whole very complicated statute. Okay. So the answer is it could be different for every single home. Okay. Depending upon when that home was first created, right? When that first deed went out for that home. And so there might be different dates for each home, and there might have been resales in that period too, obviously, right? We would have to see if in those resales, if in those deeds it refers to the declaration of covenants. Every once in a blue moon it does, and if it does refer to your declaration of covenants, you're good. Your documents didn't expire. The problem is in a condo, when you do a sale, the deed always refers to the declaration of condominium, right? Where it's recorded. In an HOA, it doesn't work that way. It's very rare that in an HOA, the legal description refers in any way to where the declaration of covenants is recorded. And if 30 years go by and there's no mention of your declaration of covenants anywhere, it's gone. Okay, I'm oversimplified it a little bit, but that's basically how it works. So in some deeds to houses, it might be mentioned. In other deeds to houses, it might not be mentioned. And guess what? So the declaration might survive us to some homes, but not others.
Oh,
it's really weird.
Does the 30-year start though when the developer created the HOA or the first sale of the home? It varies for each one.
It starts when the first deed to that home goes out.
Okay.
That's when the 30-year clock starts as to that home.
So I'm wondering.
Okay, that's significant for us because the developer incorporated in 95, but the first home wasn't sold till 99.
Okay.
So I feel
so you might be okay.
Yeah.
So it might be that your declaration of covenants didn't expire and you now want to properly preserve them now. It might be okay to do that right now.
Good.
Way to go. Okay.
And you've got a couple of years to go. What's so funny is that...
Thank you, Eric.
You got it.
Thank you. Great question. These people that may want to go ahead and terminate if this bill goes through and becomes law, they might realize that they're already not an HOA.
Right. If their community is at least 30 years old. Right. Something you have to look into. Absolutely. Back to the phones are up.
All right. Next caller is John from Dania Beach.
Hey, John.
Hello.
Hey, John. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Eric. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
Hey, Eric, just a couple of questions. I'll go real quick through this. We are in a roofing project that's probably going to end up costing us about $3 million. And they're having a meeting on Tuesday to get approvals on a number of things. Anyway, they sent out this limited proxy, which we all received on Friday. Now, in the limited proxy, you can name... this I find unusual. You can name the president of the association.
Yep.
Or you can name someone else that you designate. Now, if you do not write in your designee's name to be your proxy,
right,
or if you do not check either of those two options, the president automatically becomes
the default. Very common, John. Very common in a limited proxy. Nothing illegal about it.
Nothing illegal
about it. As long as the person who the proxy was sent to is actually making the vote, right? Do they have the ability to make the vote? Follow what I'm saying? Are they the ones that are voting?
In other words, if they're the ones that are voting, then they wouldn't need this proxy. Maybe I misunderstood.
No. So it should be on a limited proxy, right? The person who it's sent to makes the vote. They actually vote yes or no on something, but they appoint the person up top to simply be there, right, as the person casting their vote for them at the meeting, and so that a quorum is attained at the meeting. That's it. Okay?
Okay, and and in 720, somebody told me that the quorum for borrowing money is 60.34% of the owners. Is that true?
No, that's not true. Absolutely not. In terms of borrowing money, if an HOA wants to borrow it, you have to look what the governing documents say about borrowing money, if anything. And if they say nothing, then the fallback position normally is that an HOA is a not-for-profit corporation. Under the not-for-profit corporation, a board has the right to borrow money. And the only prohibition against that would be if there's a prohibition in the governing documents. Okay?
Okay.
All right, John. John, that's two. We got to keep going. We got to keep the lines moving, buddy.
A lot of the people in the chat are saying it's really hard to get rid of a board.
Oh, well,
they're like, we've been trying for years. She goes, some of these people, they don't care. Half of them don't know. The other rest, they don't want to replace them.
I'll tell you one thing. The arbitrators at the DBPR do a wonderful job. I mean this. They do a wonderful job dealing with recall cases.
For condos.
For HOAs too?
I thought they didn't help them.
Yes, they do. They handle recall cases for HOAs. Okay? Election and recall cases are handled by arbitrators for the DBPR. Okay?
I'll be darned.
And an HOA. Okay? So what do? They do a great job dealing with recall cases because they know the importance that the community wants this done quickly.
That's huge.
And I will tell you, they act quickly. They normally do this very good. So I don't agree with the fact that it's that hard to remove your board. I think if you work at it, if you get the required number of votes, it's quite frankly easy. It's really easy.
Well, if you're in an HOA, you probably think the DBPR won't help you.
But they will.
Do.
They handle those disputes. And I will tell you, they handle them well. And as a matter of fact, over the years, the statute's been amended to make it almost impossible to defend one of those cases.
Wow.
It used to be that you had a whole bunch of defenses that I could come up with and fight the recall. Right now, it's very, very few defenses. Two, were they properly served, like with a process server? That's one defense that, they always win, right? Of course they were properly served, right? And number two, is the ballot facially valid? So all they have to do, the arbitrators look at it and say, hey, is this form filled out correctly? Oh, it is? Well, the vote counts.
Okay.
Now, we once did a show on this. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, God.
That statute, to me, is flawed, though.
Oh.
Why? Because I can have a ballot. You remember as soon as I said this. The ballot could be signed by Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, right? Yes. Superman, Batman. The arbitrator is not allowed to do a check if Superman is actually an owner in the HOA. As long as the form was filled out correctly, that vote counts.
Doesn't matter who signs it.
Correct. That's how bad the statute, that's how easy, I should say, it is to remove your board now. So don't fall for the argument that it's hard to remove your board.
Wrong.
It's not. Back to the phones, Rob.
I think they're just saying it's hard because maybe the majority don't want to remove it. So democracy has to take its place. Get the votes.
Let me say this. Jan Bergman wanted me to bring this up on the show. He was saying that the statute right now is designed so that a lot of people who started in an HOA maybe 30 years ago and their expenses were so minor, so little, suddenly find themselves in a position where they can't afford it. And my comeback, and so they want to be able to dissolve it. I'm sorry, if you can't afford it, you don't get the right to dump your costs now on everybody else in your municipality. I'm not going to go with that. If you can't afford to live in your community anymore because you can't pay your water bill, you can't pay your electric bill, what do you want me to do? Tell you that you have to move.
We're all unhappy.
Guess what? Look what condo owners are going through right now, right? They're coming up with tens of thousands of dollars in special assessments. Should they be able to dump those costs on the other people who live in their municipality? No, absolutely not. So I'm sorry if your HOA bill, went up a little bit. And by the way, HOA assessments every month are tremendously smaller than there are in condominiums. So if people might have started out with paying $100 a year for their HOA, and now it's even $1,000 a year, I'm sorry, what do you want me to tell you? You live in there 30 years, it's gone up that much? You know, it is what it is. Costs go up. Do you expect to live in an HOA for 30 years and the cost not to go up?
It's weird. I'm from up north, and there's no HOAs basically up there.
Very few. Very few. I know. You know, people still up there.
Yeah.
There's blocks of homes
Yeah,
that
you
are
have
built,
like
and
a
you just live, you
neighborhood.
build a neighborhood.
Yeah.
You don't see any neighborhoods being built anymore, right?
No.
Like Mr. Rogers lives,
That's
where he
right.
lives, right? Okay, let's do this. Let's take our bottom of the hour break. Keep the calls coming in. 717-452-9378, or drop us a question or comment in the chat box on YouTube. Back right after this.
In South Florida, the transition from bright sunshine to heavy rain and hurricanes can take a toll on your property's exterior and structural integrity. Cracked stucco, spalled concrete, they're more than eyesores. They can signal deeper issues. Now, with new Florida laws involving structural integrity requirements, we want to help you meet your milestone inspections and maintain the durability and beauty of your building. Since 2004, PD has been the trusted expert in structural concrete restoration, painting, and waterproofing for condominiums and commercial properties. Visit pd-concrete.com or call us today.
All over the world, people have plumbing problems. These problems can be expensive and destructive to fix. Have you ever wondered if there was a way to take care of your plumbing problems without destruction and an outrageous price tag? Welcome to Pipelining Technologies, Inc., where we specialize in fixing your problems without demolition and minimum cutting by means of pipelining. Pipelining is the ability to take a pipe damaged by root intrusion or long-term deterioration and make it new. By means of inserting an epoxy-saturated liner into the pipe and allowing it to harden or cure, leaving behind a brand new pipe.
That sounds great. How can I get pipelining in my home, commercial building, or condominium?
Simply fill out our online contact form and a pipelining representative will get in touch with you in a timely fashion, or call us directly at 561-853-5463.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Condo Craze and HOAs. Karen Curtis with attorney Eric Glazer answering your questions in the chat or on the phone.
Yes, before we go to the phone, actually, two questions I want to answer. One is by David E., and he writes in, voting certificates are required in our bylaws for trusts, corporations, and other entities. Are these voting certificates an official record of the HOA that may be accessed by homeowners? What if some are missing? And the bottom line is yes, all of those records are official records of the association. Anybody is entitled to see the voting certificates that are on file. What if some are missing? It becomes a problem for those entities that own those homes or units. Why? Because if those voting certificates are not on file, technically there can be no vote accepted from that home or unit without that voting certificate. So the people that own it in a corporation, an LLC, a trust, they better make sure that those voting certificates are in the hands of the manager or the secretary. Next question, Dennis writes in, silly question. Is the Association for Condos called an HOA, or is there a way to delineate through the term used being discussed? And you know what? It's a great question.
It is. It's confusing.
Because everybody that lives in a condo, for example, when they talk about their assessments every month, they say, when I pay my HOA fees, you're not paying your HOA fees. You're paying your condo assessments. For whatever reason, everybody uses the term condo and HOA like interchangeably, especially the people that live in a condo. If you live in a condo, you have a condo association. If you live in an HOA, you live in a homeowners association.
But I'm in a condo with an HOA umbrella.
And that might happen too. The master might be an HOA.
Sorry.
Thanks for screwing everybody up. I thought I was making progress with them over there, but apparently not. Okay, so, but if you live in a condo, you're not paying your HOA fees unless you're paying it to the master. Karen is right, okay? But you're paying your condo fees to your condo association.
Right, you're
okay?
a condo.
All
What
right.
is it, and what's that's 719?
Condo 718.
718.
719 is co-op. 720 HOA.
Okay, you have your own separate.
Your own separate statute, your own separate groups of laws, exactly. Back to the phones, Rob.
All right, let's go to Sunrise, Florida. I think it's Yvonne.
Hey, Yvonne.
719.
Oh, there's me.
And maybe you just want to turn down your volume.
Yvonne, turn down your volume, please.
Okay.
There you go. Good morning. How can we help?
Yes, good morning. My question is regarding both condos and HOAs.
is it possible to dissolve either and become an independent district?
An independent district in your municipality, kind of? Now, I understand. Yes. I understand. You know exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes there are these independent districts. As a matter of fact, we represent one in Miami, and that's very, very complicated. And that's normally done before the community is built. Okay, a developer will come along and try to create this independent district where they get help from the city in building the infrastructure. Okay. And they promise to give back the municipality a certain amount of money and funds. And there's created this independent district.
And that sounds good.
Yes. And is it possible to take your community that's already built and turn it into an independent district? I'm going to go with no. Oh. And the reason I'm going with no is because that's typically done before the actual community is built. And it normally requires some sort of a deal between the developer building the community, right, and the municipality itself. I don't know of any that have been done after the fact. And I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
That's a good one.
Sure thing, absolutely. Back to you, Rob, the phones.
All right, next caller.
I'm sorry, the term that she's referring to, is a CDD. And a lot of people listening right now may even live in one, a community development district. CDD. Right. So you may have, listen to this one, you may live in a CDD where you're paying fees to. You may live in your HOA that you're paying fees to. And you may have a master association that you're paying fees to. Those people may have to have 3 payments that they're making each month.
So if I want to get rid of the HOA, I've already got the CDD.
You might, it doesn't mean you're getting out of the CDD.
No, but they already have,
well, originally there was agreement with the developer to help build those facilities. Taking them over might be something else.
I'm still paying them for the roads and stuff.
You have to see what that CDD agreement originally required, but you might be right. But you might
make it easier.
It might be easier if you're in a CDD. That's very true. Okay, good call. Back to the phones, Rob.
All right, over to Winter Park.
Oh, hello.
Frank,
Good morning.
You are live.
Hey, Frank.
Oh, yeah, this is Frank. We had our preservation notice filed in 2003.
Okay.
And there's an affidavit that had to go with it. And this is in the Winter Springs area.
Yep.
And it was the property manager that signed the affidavit, and not a member of the HOA themselves. Would that make it moot for the preservation notice?
I don't know. I'd have to check the statute that was in effect in 2003.
Yeah, it was
but I'd have to check the 2003 version.
1206. Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, at that time, right, looking back, over 20 years now, what did the statute say at that time? Who was allowed to sign that preservation notice?
And that could negate it?
And maybe you can, if it's not signed by the right person.
Yeah, it was only to be signed by a member of the board of the association, a director, or an officer.
Oh.
But it's crazy, but the affidavit for the mail-outs of the information was signed by a property manager.
Well, understand for the mail-outs, right, but who actually signed the notice of preservation? That's what I would want to know. Who signed it?
That would be the president.
Okay,
but the affidavit itself was specific.
Then I don't think. Then I don't think I have a problem with that. I don't have a problem if the manager mailed it out, and it's the president who's actually signs the notice of preservation based upon their own personal knowledge. Then I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. Okay.
Okay. So even though the statute is explicit, and you go by MARTA for what it says, not what the intentions are.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the statute at the time, but as to me, as long, and by the way, is this a notice of preservation that was signed or a revitalization? Because if you're filing
preservation that was signed.
Yeah, preservation. So now you can just fill out a form with the county, right? And you answer 10 things in that form. And as long as it's signed by an officer or director, then it's perfectly fine.
So
there's not even a requirement that a manager signs the form. So again, I'd have to check. Can't give you an answer until I'd have to see that statute. But I know what it certainly says now. Yeah. Okay?
All right.
Thanks for the call.
You so much.
Okay, got it. Back to the phones, Rob.
We have smart watchers,
Absolutely,
viewers.
100%.
Super smart.
All right, next caller is Patty. She's got a question about how municipalities might have to pay for these HOAs. Who's going to pay for the garbage pickup?
Yeah. Right.
Hey.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
All right.
Morning. So my question is, I live in a condo, so it doesn't affect me, but my boyfriend is in an HOA. If the state's going to be doing away with certain property taxes and that passes, how are the cities going to be potentially paying for this?
That's a good question, and that's what they're battling for in the legislature right now, right? So far, Governor DeSantis is really trying to leave in a manner that makes him look like a hero to Florida residents everywhere in terms of, protecting your homestead and making sure that your taxes go down for homesteads. But where are you going to get the money from, basically? Is that the question? Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, that's my question.
Listen, Florida is doing, unlike a lot of other states, Florida is doing fantastic. We're sitting on so much money. Tourism's doing great. Our economy is doing great. We're collecting taxes like never before. So our governor's thinking, let's give back to our residents. And as a matter of fact, there's been bills that are going through the House, going through the Senate, or trying to at least. And the problem with them is that the governor thinks that they don't go far enough at the moment. He really wants to give taxpayers a tremendous break.
Well, he says you're an owner. You don't have to keep renting,
Yeah, right. But at the moment, he can't get the Senate and the House to agree with him in total. So there were some bills out there that are trying to help, but the governor thinks that they're not going far enough, and hope that by this time next week we either have a bill in place or everybody's going to go home without a bill, and he'd have to call the legislature back into session.
They can't even agree on a budget.
Yeah,
it's going to go. Last year went to June.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but I think most homeowners in Florida have their fingers crossed that this Republican-led legislature should be able to get some sort of relief for Florida homeowners everywhere. You certainly shouldn't have to be taxed out of your home.
But the House is dysfunctional. They're not with anybody.
Well, let's hope it happens. But that's a great call. Thank you so much for it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have to thank you. We got to take our final break of the hour. Take the calls. Keep the calls coming in. 717-452-9378, or drop us a question in the chat box on YouTube. Back right after this.
We are DMI Paving and Seal Coating, Florida's parking lot experts. We specialize in asphalt paving and repair, including pothole repair, seal coating using JC7 or polytar, concrete curbs, ramps, and walkways, and striping and pavement marking, as well as ADA compliance. We service commercial properties, including homeowners associations, apartment communities, shopping malls, warehouses, stadiums and arenas, and more. Experience is worth more than anything in an industry like ours, and our staff has decades of it. We have specialized equipment for any job, regardless of size, saving you time and money. DMI has a reputable history. We have been in business since 1956. We serve the state of Florida from 6 locations. Let us bid on your next parking lot project. Visit us online at dmipavingandsealcoating.com.
And welcome back to the final segment of Condo Craze and HOAs. Don't wait to the last minute to ask a question in the chat or give us a call. Eric usually gets to most of the questions.
Yes, so there's a question that Ann writes in. What's the likelihood of this legislation passing this year? And that I get obviously referring to House Bill 657. Well, it passed the House, and it's going to have to pass in the Senate as well. So far, it's not moving in the Senate, but there's a week to go, and a lot can happen in the next week, okay? So is it possible that House Bill 657 winds up passing the Senate? It could happen. Now, it would have to get attached onto Senate Bill 1498 by Senator Bradley. And I would urge all of you out there, to contact Senator Bradley and tell her to make sure House Bill 657 gets killed, okay? You want to make sure you contact Senator Bradley, tell her that you think House Bill 657 is a terrible bill for all the reasons we mentioned, doing away with pre-suit mediation, right? this ridiculous termination provision when all you really want to do is get rid of your board, right? And have a new board come in. And this crazy court system that they want to develop. One judge to hear every single condo and HOA case in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties.
And
Yeah,
no
that'll work.
mediation,
And no pre-suit mediation, forcing all of you into $10,000 court fees right off the bat when all you really got to do is settle your case at pre-suit mediation. The statute fails on so many levels. It's real. Look, you know, I'm a reasonable person. If I thought the statute had some merit, I have no problem discussing it rationally. As you know, we begged the Representative Porras to come on the show, talk with us, talk with all of you about the merits of House Bill 657. Silence. Absolute silence. If your bill is so good, if it's so great, come on and tell us. Talk about it. If I'm wrong, I will admit I'm wrong. Will I not admit I'm wrong? I'll admit I'm wrong. Okay? But so far, the bill stinks. So putting it bluntly, the bill stinks.
It sucks.
And contact again Senator Bradley, please, and tell her you want this bill killed. Rob, are you putting up any information for her?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find her email. I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay, wonderful.
So the companion bill in the Senate doesn't do any of that?
It doesn't have this attached to it yet.
But does it have the mediation going out?
No, there's
None
nothing.
of that.
There's none of it in the Senate yet. None of this.
So the companion bill, what does it do?
I forgot what the companion bill does, but it doesn't talk about any of this.
All right.
Okay. So this would, in effect, have to get attached to it, and it's a process. But can it actually happen this week? Yes, it can happen this week. I know it still have to be read 3 times and voted upon by the Senate, but I am praying for one that the Senate kills this. It's a bad bill. Okay. All right. Back to the phones, Rob.
All right. Next caller is Armando.
Armando, how are you?
Good morning, Eric, Karen, and Rob. Great show as always.
Thank you so much.
My question was regarding DBPR.
Yes.
I have a outstanding case dating back to September. Yet every time I sent an email follow-up, they told me it has not moved to the general counsel.
Yes.
Is there an average wait of 6-8 months?
6-8 years.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, on those issues, and I said that tongue in cheek. I'm saying it jokingly. On the arbitration cases, fantastic. They really move them along fine. On the general complaint type of cases, sorry to say, you know, they allegedly hired like 75 more investigators that were supposed to help with all these things. I will tell you that I'm personally working on cases where, you know, we've come up with evidence of wrongdoing that just served up on a silver platter, like couldn't be easier, and kicked out. And you cannot figure out why. So, you know, all I can tell you is on those issues, no, I don't think things have improved all that much. On the arbitration front, I think things have always gone well, and they're going even better now, quite frankly. I think arbitration's doing real well. Complaint process, not so much, okay?
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Regarding auditing, I know somebody responded on the chat that it has to be done 90 days after the books are closed for the end of the year.
Now, condos have changed. Condos have changed. So there's a new law because condos now have to go through so much more accounting than HOAs do. The HOA statute still says 120 days of your financial year and financial report has to be done by. So the end of April, right, for HOAs. Condos, the law has now changed. Condos, you now get an extra 60 days to do your year-end financial report, and you get until the end of June. Okay? So new extension of time for condominiums. All right, Armando, hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you so much.
You have a great day,
fan
sir.
of the show. We'll continue to do
Thank
so.
you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it, sir.
Why don't HOAs get to deduct their dues that pay for things that a city pays for non-HOA communities? City recreation pools, community buildings. I don't know what he's
I don't know. I have no idea either. That's an accounting question at best. Way over our heads here. How about Marie? Was it Marie Rice? Mary Ann from Brooklyn here. How are you, Mary Ann? But no question. You got a question, Mary Ann? We will take it. Let's see.
She was your neighbor.
Ken writes in, removing property taxes has its flaws, built in as well. Look, the question is, if we remove property taxes, is it going to hurt things? It's not going to affect our schools, from what I understand.
No.
No matter what, there's going to be no money taken
Fire
away
rescue,
from schools. Right.
ambulance in
Right.
schools.
So for other things that we're probably wasting a lot of money on anyway, right, then maybe it won't be so bad. Look, I got no problem, giving everybody a break in terms of their property taxes.
Robert brought up it's homesteaded people. So
right, if it's homesteaded people, right.
And his building has a lot of people
a lot of investors.
From international investors.
Do I think those people who are international investors should get a break on the real estate taxes?
No.
Of course not. They knew what they were, when they were buying, they knew what they were getting into.
That's happening more and more and more in Miami, especially.
Now, it might make that international buyer, it might make it easier for them to sell if that person that's going to live in it knows that their taxes are not going to go up so much every year.
That's a good
So it certainly may help the market and move things, because I will tell you, the market is dead. Things are not moving at all. The market is absolutely dead, except for international investors. That's it. Rob, I think there was an article in the Herald last month that said 80% of all new sales that are happening right now are in fact from international buyers.
That's right.
Right. I mean,
and really wealthy international buyers.
And it's cash. It's cash. Oh.
It's scary in a way, because if international markets crash, what's going to happen here?
Oh
right?
My God.
Can there be another foreclosure crisis happening?
Where's the majority of these from? Who are they?
Oh, definitely South America.
Yeah, I think it's a mix. A lot of South Americans.
Yeah.
But what about like Dubai, China, Russia? I guess
I don't remember the breakdown.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that, if there's so many investors from Dubai or China here, but a lot from South America. So certainly in our interest to make sure that those countries' economies do not collapse, because if they do, it's going to create a problem here.
Oh, very good point.
That's for sure. Back to the phones, Rob.
Like Brazil's okay.
Or maybe not. Maybe we'll get more investors because they need to move their money away to someplace safe.
Venezuela and Cuba's going to collapse. They're talking about regime change there any minute.
With Marco put in charge, right? That's what Trump keeps saying. Marco
Fidel
will be
Rubio. Marco has just got so many hats.
Right. Who do we got, Ron?
Okay, over to Joanne.
Hey, Joanne. Good morning.
Looks like Boynton
Beach. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
My question is regarding a POA. The community is a condo community, has 6 independent POA
condo associations, okay.
And the POA, we do not have a clear understanding of where the records are for a POA or what the guidelines are. Yeah. Could you give a quick overview of what the responsibility is to the community?
Yeah, so when you say a POA, you're probably referring to the Master Association.
Yes,
okay?
Yes, now, I am.
Yeah, if they're a 720 Master Association, which they probably are in your community, under Florida Statute 720, they have the same responsibilities to maintain the records just like your condominium association would. Right? If you're paying your dues to them each month, right, like you say you are, they 100% owe you the obligation to respond to your records requests. So if you make a records request, by the way, to your HOA, and anybody who lives in an HOA, different from a condo. In a condo, you have to make your records request. It says in writing. In an HOA, you have to make that records request in writing, certified mail, return receipt requested. Why it's harder for somebody in an HOA to get a records request going than a condo owner, I don't know. But again, certified mail, return receipt requested. If you do it to your master association, they have an obligation to give you access to those records within 10 working days. If they don't give you access to those records within 10 working days, you would be able, for the time being, right, to go to pre-suit mediation.
Barring 657.
Okay, right. Now think about this. Think this is like the perfect case, right?
Yeah, right.
Right now, you would be able to go make a demand on them for pre-suit mediation because you failed to give me access to the records, right? And hopefully you would think that that silly dispute would get solved in mediation if the mediator knew what they were doing, right, very, very quickly. And what did it cost that unit owner, right? The cost of sharing the mediator fees, a few $100 maybe, because it should be settled in 2 hours. Nothing, obviously nothing more than that. right? Now what do? Look what she is now forced to do if she can't get the records.
But she's winner, winner, chicken dinner.
If she gets an attorney, technically, yes, but does she got to come up with the money now to pay her attorney?
Yeah.
Does she got to give an attorney a few $1,000s now to get going, right? And if the association fights back in court somehow, now what? She's got to give the attorney a retainer plus additional fees, right? So
and then the association loses, and the association people have to pay for the lawsuit.
Have to pay for the lawsuit because exactly this is a lose by not having a pre-suit mediation bill. It's absolutely terrible for all the reasons that this caller brought to everybody's attention.
But lawyers love it
call.
because it's obviously.
I said it to Senator Bradley. Quite frankly, the only people that make good on this are the lawyers. The lawyers do very well on this. I think we'll take one more, Ron.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Indeed. Let's go to Tampa. Edwin, you are live.
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I have a question. I have a tree that has been determined to be dangerous by tree landscaper and an arborist report. I reported to provided that arborist report to the county as well as the board, and they're evaluating if they should take action to cut it because of the danger that is posed. The county determined that doesn't pose an immediate danger, therefore they will not mandate the board to cut it in the next 30 days, but they're evaluating the tree. My concern is if the tree falls and damages my property, I'm telling the board that they will be held liable for any damage to my property because they failed to maintain the criteria stated in our bylaws that requires that we have safe facilities, including trees that belong to the board. What is your take? And the other concern is when we go and renew the insurance, if they fail to tell that they may have a possible lawsuit for not doing their fiduciary duty to maintain a safe environment, the insurance could deny payment of any claim because we didn't tell them the truth.
So there used to be a statute a while back. Remember, if you had a letter from an arborist, it was very easy to remove that tree.
Yeah.
Well, I think at some point the legislature determined that that was too easy. So you had a lot of trees being removed throughout Florida. So now it's, I believe, more difficult to have a tree removed, and you have to get permission from your local municipality. And if you don't get permission and they find out that it was removed, right, they can make you put a tree back. They can make you put a tree back in other areas of the city, for example. Like we're sitting here in Hollywood at the moment. And Hollywood will oftentimes let you remove a tree, right? But they'll tell you, okay, you owe us one tree though, okay? And we want you to put that tree on a different...
The removal of that tree in the past.
Right.
And the county recommended that it be removed. I'm talking about the inspector, but he's not responsible for enforcing that. So there's no question in our community of 15 homes, 11 of the 15 homes have removed the trees with a county permit.
Right. Okay. So are you saying, can you get a county permit or you can't?
We got it in the past, so I'm sure they will.
So now they won't give you one? Maybe I'm confused. Why can't you remove it now? Who's saying no?
Well, but the problem is the tree, the president of the board told me for me to remove it. My point is, it's not my responsibility because the tree belongs in the HOA property.
Oh, you're fighting about whose responsibility is it, the HOA or you?
That's right.
Okay, there's no way for me to know that without reviewing your governing documents. I don't know, whose it is.
Our governing documents are very clear who's responsible to pay for that. In this particular case, it will be the owner or the property that where that tree belong to, because they did a modification.
And is that common areas? Hold on. So is that common areas or is that on your home?
It's in common area.
Okay. So if
they
you're
have the
right,
responsibility of the tree to the homeowners that have the tree in front of them. They voted for that. And I discussed with you that issue in the past.
You know what I suggest you do?
I advocated that doesn't apply to me because I did not vote for that change.
Okay, so you know what I suggest you do before July 1st? Ask for pre-suit mediation.
Yeah.
Isn't this hysterical, actually?
Yeah.
Right? So, but if you call back on July 2nd...
You might be screwed.
I'm going to tell you have to go file an expensive lawsuit because of House Bill 657. Right, and I think this is like a perfect call to end on, right?
You're going to go out on a limb and say,
limb, get it, tree, limb. I get it.
It's a dangerous tree. So when you have to plant a new tree, it doesn't have to be not dangerous.
It has to be not dangerous. If the dangerous condition, they obviously have to remove it if it's on their property. That's an easy one.
Especially if they know it's dangerous and they don't remove it.
No question, right? And they can certainly, wind up in big trouble for not removing it. But the bottom line is, for this poor guy, before July 1st, he goes to mediation. Just like the prior Corla. He goes to mediation. After July 1st, if the bill passes, go file a lawsuit, buddy. Come up with 10 grand.
When falls on his car. Yes? Robert?
Say it again?
Oh, you.
Oh, we thought you had something to say?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to mention that the poll.
Oh.
Yeah, sure. Let us know.
65 votes on the poll. 83% say that HB 657 should not become law.
Beautiful.
All right, well, there you go.
We're going to share those results with the senator as well.
And that's this week.
Well, and again, I urge all of you, please get in touch with her and say that you think House Bill 657 is bad. Please don't allow it to pass the Senate. And we'll know by this time next week. We'll see what happens, and we'll let you know next Sunday. In the meantime, everybody have a wonderful, safe, healthy week with you and your families. If you need legal help off the air, you can give Glazer and Sachs a call, 954-983-1112. Again, 954-983-1112. And we'll see you again next Sunday on Condo Craze and HOAs at 11 a.m. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Same truth, same time, no smoke, no spin. See you next Sunday at 11 a.m. You've been watching Condo Craze and HOAs. Lights coming down, another hour gone. I choose it, lines clearly drawn. Process matters, rules come first. Ignore them once, and things get worse. Read the rules, show up in fun. When mistakes happen, don't take it personal. That's how lawsuits fade instead of grow. That's how communities stay in control. We take the calls, we hear it all. Helping Floridians stand tall. Condos, HOs, every voice has a place. When you face it head on, chaos loses the race. Same truth, same time, no smoke, no spin. See you next Sunday at 11 a.m. You've been watching Condo Craze and HOAs.